Hey everybody, Weston here with the Hidden Gibbon, and I've said multiple times, I like Universes Beyond for the most part, but much like I have to, I gotta call a spade, and so there is a concerning thing that some other folks have addressed multiple times, and I've even alluded to it in a few of my videos about Universes Beyond and Commander. And what is that? Well, it relates to another thing that I absolutely despise in Magic, and that is the reserve list. Now, we know what the reserve list is, and for those of you who don't, the reserve list is a set of cards that a long time ago, Wizards said that they would never reprint again after they made the set Chronicles, which almost imploded Magic the Gathering. People got very mad that a bunch of cards that were very expensive got reprinted, so Wizards chose a group of cards and said, hey, we will never reprint these ever again. Now, that worked for a long time, and it built consumer confidence back then. Problem is, nowadays, is a lot of those cards are still staples in certain formats, like the format I grew into Magic playing, Legacy. The reserve list very effectively killed Legacy, for the most part, in paper, because things like Dual Lands, Gaia's Cradle, etc. are all reserve list. But now, we have... well, then I agree with the term, a pseudo reserve list out there. So what is this pseudo reserve list? And you can probably guess from this Scryfall page I have up here. These are Universes Beyond commanders. Now, ignore things here like Miku, because this is Child of Alara. And Child of Alara is a Universes Within card. But the problem that we have are actually with things like Avatar Aang, Ezio, Cosmic Spider-Man, etc. We have cards that are from these properties that cannot be easily reprinted into Universes Within formats. So what we could, and what we already have seen with some of these commanders, are price spikes. Huge, massive price spikes. We'll use two examples. I got them right here, right? We have Jaws, and we have Jinsakai. I own both of these commanders, but Jaws here, this was after they said that they would probably be reprinting this sometime in an upcoming set. But since they have not said when or what set that will be, Jaws here has gone from probably being what would normally be like a $20 card to over $150 if you want to play that commander. Now, I got lucky and I managed to get in and grab Jaws. I could have gotten two, but I chose not to, so that way somebody else could. Kind of regret that in hindsight. And Jinsakai here was the clear favorite for the Sony commanders. And he is now demanding a price tag of like $60, $70, and that's only going up. So the issue here is, how do you reprint some of these cards that are so unique and so interesting? So Jaws and Jinsakai actually might be among the easier ones because they don't have any specific mechanics on them that cause trouble. Where we do have some trouble are things like Aang. So Avatar Aang here says, flying, firebending 2, and then whenever you waterbend, earthbend, firebend, or airbend, draw a card. Then if you've done all four, you transform him, and then he's Aang, Master of Elements, he flies, your spells cost Wooburg less. But the important part on here is that it has firebending on there, and waterbending, earthbending, etc. All named mechanics that are trademarked, by Viacom, and so cannot be reprinted onto a Magic card without getting those rights back. Sure, you could try to do an Omen Path route where you say it's fire cast, water cast, earth cast, or air cast, but then again, you're going to end up having confusion. Now, there's a card, and I'll put them on screen. They did reprint a few mechanically unique commanders that came out in Secret Lairs. They did it for The Walking Dead, and they did it for Street Fighter. But the one that I'm really going to hone in on what causes confusion is the Street Fighter one. And I'll put them on screen. So Blanca is a deck that I wanted to make. Blanca is my tier 4 deck. right here. And as I was making Blanca, I actually did not know that they had reprinted those secret lair cards into Universes Within. And so as I was looking for cards for Blanca, I came across Howling Abomination. And when I came across Howling Abomination, I'm like, sweet, this card is literally just the same thing as Blanca, but Universes Within. And so I'm like talking with my friends, going to go put it in, and they're like, hey, you can't do that. I'm like, well, why not? They're like, it's the same card. I'm like, but this says Howling Abomination. And they're like, yeah, we know, but it's still the same card. So because Blanca is trademarked by Capcom, they could not put, see, like on the Miku here, how it says Miku, Child of Song, and then has Child of Alara. They can't put Howling Abomination and then below it, Blanca Ferocious Friend, right? The only indicator there is on Blanca is if you look down on the card in the bottom left-hand corner, it'll say SLD and then that, and then the little secret lair drop set symbol, which honestly, I just didn't pay attention to the set symbol because it just is the generic promo set symbol. I just did not even think to look at that. And that was kind of confusing. And if me, somebody who's played the game for over 20 years at this point, gets confused, what hope does somebody who's brand new to the game have, right? And I've kind of talked about that specific issue in a video before, but this is more along the lines of, what do we do since we no longer do blocks, right? So unless Wizards pays for the rights again to Avatar and then generates a second set with Avatar Korra, like the Legend of Korra as a set, and then has things like Avatar Aang, Toph, First Metal Bender, etc., Master Earthbender as list cards or Eternal Legal set cards that are printed in low quantities as a supplementary part of those sets. How are you going to get some of these cards and put in there? And this is honestly why I have been really focused on when they do secret layers. I tend to dip out a lot of the secret layers. I don't care much for foils. A lot of the arts don't really get me, but even if there is something that I don't necessarily like as a property, if it has a mechanically unique commander, I will usually pick it up because I build so many commander decks that I will probably get around to wanting to build a commander in that deck. For example, the Ghoul, Lucy McLean, and Titus, right? For the Fallout one that just came out. And for the PlayStation ones, I've been building several. But the problem is if I don't get those, and then say one of them happens to be super popular, I'm either going to have to proxy, which not everywhere is proxy friendly, although I support proxies and most of my friends are fine with proxies. Not everybody is. And so then what do we do at that point in time when a card becomes $150, $200, $300, and they can't reprint it because they can't get the rights to the property back, right? We're seeing this with several of the Warhammer 40k cards where they're not getting reprinted. There's no Universes Within version of them, despite the fact that they have been out now for years. And we are just not seeing those re-enter the market. And as a result, you are seeing a lot of those cards, even ones that aren't commanders, spike up in price. And that moves on to an even larger issue when it comes to not just commander, but constructed play. Not just commanders are mechanically unique cards for Universes Beyond. There are also removal spells, draw spells, combo spells, all sorts of spells that are mechanically unique inside of Universes Beyond, and we have to find a way to reprint those. But the problem is we don't even get reprint sense anymore, right? We have Foundations, but Foundations is meant to exist for the next 3 or so years for the entire standard, and we don't have blocks. So these mechanics are also not getting fully fleshed out, which is going to be another video where I'm going to talk about a downside to not having blocks. But we just keep coming into this issue of we just keep printing more and more and more sets, and that is an issue in and of itself as well. But we have no way of, you can't reprint an Ezio into an Avatar set. You can't reprint the Cosmic Spider-Man into the Hobbit. Now, the Hobbit is an interesting take here, right? This is where we're going to get to see our first Lord of the Rings standard legal Universes Beyond set, and the first time we'll have gone back to a plane in terms of like full-on Universes Beyond plane. I know we have Marvel coming up, but I don't know how much Spider-Man's going to be in the Marvel set. And we're going to get to see how they do reprints, because I think that they will do an Orcish Bowmasters reprint, the One Ring reprint, but they will all be part of these like collector booster only findable cards, kind of like what they did with the Avatar set, what they did with the Turtle set, etc. Now that doesn't help us at all. You might say, okay, well, these are still reprints entering the market, but if you're only putting them into collector booster product, you are not going to generate enough of them in the wild to affect the market whatsoever. And we've seen this before, where these cards come out, and especially if they're staples, right? Ristic Study is a good example here. Even though it's not Universes Beyond, it gets printed into these supplementary parts, right? It got reprinted in Avatar. It got reprinted in another thing, I believe Final Fantasy. And it just doesn't affect the price because not enough of them are entering the market. And combine that with the fact that they are only put into collector booster boxes, which are more likely to be purchased and sat on as an investment vehicle by flippers, etc., like people who strictly use Magic as an investment vehicle, sitting on these things. Those, again, are not cards that are entering the secondary market, can't make it to your local game stores, can't make it to you, can't make it to the online stores, etc. Now, how do we fix this? Because like this is honestly what I see as the single biggest problem with Universes Beyond. It boils down to, we either have to do more things like Miku here, who is Child of Alara, but has Miku on it, which I don't think they're going to go for, right? If somebody like Viacom, if like a company like Viacom is going to give their rights to Wizards to be able to make their product, they're going to want their stuff feeling like their stuff, right? Representing it well. And I think Avatar got done very well. The other option is they're going to have to revisit these planes. That's the second option. And that's honestly probably the most affordable option. Or three, and this is probably the least likely option, is they probably sign a contract with these companies, and I don't know because I don't work at Wizards and I don't work at Hasbro, but they probably sign a contract that's like, okay, you have the rights to these cards for this long. The problem is that they probably have like some form of like non-compete in there, right? And this is what makes option 3 so difficult and probably not going to happen. Is option 3 could be Universes Beyond reprint sets, where think of like a Foundations or the old core sets. And then what you do is you use the cards that you have the rights to and you reprint them into this Universes Beyond reprint set, and that provides the reprints for your to help stabilize the secondary market. Problem with this is I don't think that, say, Viacom is going to want you to have a set where you open up Avatar Aang next to a Cosmic Spider-Man, right? A lot of companies are very particular. They don't want mixed messaging for branding, things like that. And so a company's not going to want, a Lord of the Rings card being opened up next to their other card. Now, you could do a reprint set via Viacom, right? Viacom is fine as long as it's a Viacom property, probably. So you could open up Avatar, Heroes in a Half Shell, and whatever other Viacom properties they choose to do in the future. But it's very difficult. You think that Square Enix is going to want Avatar stuff next to their product? I'm not sure. But those are the only real 3 ways forward. The only other thing I can see happening in the long run is that we eventually just have a secondary reserve list where these cards just never, ever get reprinted. And eventually, even cards that aren't that great end up spiking in price. And we've seen this with other cards as well. on the regular reserve list, because people then start using them as an investment vehicle. When the reserve list really spiked in price during the COVID years, there were cards that would not see play in anything. Not limited, not constructed, not draft, nothing. It would not see play in a single thing ever. But they spiked simply because they wouldn't be reprinted. And is that healthy for the game? And that's what I want to ask all of you is, do you see this as a compounding issue? And this is not solely a Universes Beyond issue, right? We have a Universes Within reserve list as well. And are either of those systems healthy? Are either of those systems good for the long term of the game? I know that they tout that they bring in a lot of players with Universes Beyond, but are those players going to stick around when, say, Avatar Aang becomes like a $500 card because it hasn't seen a reprint in 10 years, right? Who's to say and who knows? But let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. I know that a lot of the answers are going to be just proxy, and I agree with you. Proxy, if you need to, especially in these sort of economic times. I'm never going to be anti-proxy, but like I said, not everywhere is proxy friendly. But let me know what you think in the comments down below. I love hearing the engagement. Also, let me know how I'm doing with these discussion videos. Again, I don't really do scripts because I stutter if I try to use a script, which is super fun, let me tell you. But as always, I'm Weston with the Hidden Gibbon, and I hope you all have a wonderful day. Hey everybody,